So within this module, we're going to be covering macro and micronutrients. Macronutrients. Every food you eat is a combination of macronutrients and water. Macronutrients are the part of your food that gives you energy, and they provide most of the raw materials your body needs to build and maintain tissues. Macro, because your body requires them in large amounts, relative to micronutrients, which you need in tiny quantities. There are 3 macronutrients: proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. What is protein? Proteins are essential nutrients for the human body. They are one of the building blocks of body tissue. Proteins are large, complex molecules that play many critical roles in the body. They do most of the work in the cells and are required for the structure, function, and regulation of the body's tissues and organs. Proteins are made up of many different amino acids linked together. There are 20 different amino acid building blocks commonly found in plants and animals. A typical protein is made up of 300 or more amino acids, and the specific number and sequence of amino acids are unique to each protein. Amino acids are classified as either essential or non-essential. As the name suggests, essential amino acids cannot be produced by the body and therefore must come from our diet, whereas non-essential amino acids can be produced by the body and therefore do not need to come from the diet. What proteins do for the body? Our bodies are made up of thousands of different proteins, each with a specific function. They make up the structural components of our cells and tissues, as well as many enzymes, hormones, and the active proteins secreted from immune cells. These body proteins are continually being repaired and replaced throughout our lives. This process, known as protein synthesis, requires a continuous supply of amino acids. Although some amino acids can be recycled from the breakdown of old body proteins, the process is imperfect. This means we must eat dietary protein to keep up with our body's amino acid demand. As protein is essential for cell and tissue growth, adequate intake of protein is particularly important during periods of rapid growth or increased demand, such as childhood, adolescence, pregnancy, and breastfeeding. So, sources of protein. You have 2 sources of protein essentially. You have animal sources of protein and also plant-based protein. And your goal is to try and get a mixture of both of these different sources to make sure we are getting all of the amino acids that make up these proteins. So, how many grams of protein do I need? The DRI, dietary reference intake, is 0.36 grams of protein per pound of body weight. This amounts to 56 grams per day for the average sedentary man and 46 grams per day for the average sedentary woman. But of course, this is absolutely personal to you individually. This may be enough to prevent deficiency, but the amount you need depends on many factors, including your activity level, age, muscle mass, physical goals, and overall health. What are carbohydrates? Carbohydrates are found in a wide array of both healthy and unhealthy foods: bread, beans, milk, popcorn, potatoes, biscuits, spaghetti, soft corn drinks, and cherry pie. They also come in a variety of forms. The most common and abundant forms are sugars, fibres, and starches. Foods high in carbohydrates are an important part of a healthy diet. Carbohydrates provide the body with glucose, which is converted to energy used to support bodily functions and physical activity. But carbohydrate quality is important. Some types of carbohydrate-rich foods are better than others. There are 3 main types of carbohydrates. Sugars. They are also called simple carbohydrates because they are in the most basic form. Starches. They are complex carbohydrates, which are made of lots of simple sugars strung together. Fibre. It is also a complex carbohydrate. How many grams of carbohydrates do I need? Your body needs 100 grams of non-fibrous carbohydrates a day to function, which is 20 teaspoons of sugar a day. Use the divide by 5 rule to see the teaspoons in sugar in something. Divide the total grams of carbohydrate minus fibre by 5 will give you a teaspoon of sugar in something. So for example, 200 grams of white pasta is 74 grams of carbohydrate, 3.2 grams of fibre. So that's 74 minus 32, and that equals 70.8. Divide that by 5, and then you've got 14.16 teaspoons of sugar in 200 grams of white pasta. There are 3 main types of carbohydrate. The healthiest source of carbohydrates, unprocessed or minimally processed whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and beans. They promote good health by delivering vitamins and minerals, fibre, and a host of important phytonutrients. Unhealthier sources of carbohydrates include white bread, pastries, fizzy drinks, and other highly processed or refined foods. These items contain easily digestible carbohydrates that contribute to weight gain, interfere with weight loss, promote diabetes and heart disease. So, what is a fat? Fats are a substance that help the body to use some vitamins and keep the skin healthy. They are also the main way the body stores energy. In food, there are many types of fat: saturated, unsaturated, polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, and trans fats. Fat is made up of building blocks called fatty acids. Fatty acids can differ in structure, chain length, saturation. These differences affect whether they are solid or liquid. Importantly, the differences in chemical structures can also make a difference to their health effects. Fats found in foods are typically saturated or unsaturated fats. Most foods usually contain a mixture of both types. We would normally describe a food as being high in saturated or unsaturated depending on which they are a rich source of. Healthy fats versus unhealthy fats. Two types of fat, saturated fat and trans fat, have been identified as potentially harmful to your health. Most of the foods that contain these types of fat are solid at room temperature, such as butter, margarine, beef or pork fat. Trans fat should be avoided, whilst saturated fat should be eaten very sparingly. Monosaturated fat and polyunsaturated fat, more heart-healthy fats. These are fats that are a better choice for your diet. Foods that primarily contain these healthier fats tend to be a liquid when they're at room temperature. Monosaturated fat. This type of helpful fat is present in a variety of foods and oils. Eating foods that contain monosaturated fat can improve your blood cholesterol level and decrease your risk for cardiovascular disease. These foods include nuts, such as almonds, cashews, pecans, peanuts, vegetable oils like olive oil, peanut butter, almond butter, and avocado. Polyunsaturated fats. Polyunsaturated fats are known as essential fats because the body cannot make them and needs to get them from food. Plant-based foods and oils are the primary source of this fat. A certain type of this fat, called omega-3 fatty acids, has been shown to be particularly beneficial for your heart. Omega-3s appear to not only decrease the risk of coronary artery disease, but they also help lower blood pressure levels and guard against irregular heart rates. The following type of foods contain omega-3 fatty acids: salmon, sardine, trout, walnut, flaxseed, chia seeds, canola oil. In addition to omega-3 fatty acids, you can find polyunsaturated fat in the following foods, which also contain omega-6 fatty acids: tofu, roasted soybeans and soy nut butter, walnuts, seeds such as sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, and vegetable oils such as corn oil, safflower oil, sesame oil, and sunflower oil. How many grams of fat do you need? Ideally, about 30% of your total calories should come from fat. It's recommended to eat more of some types of fats because they provide health benefits, as explained in the previous slides. Micronutrients. Micronutrients are those nutrients we require in relatively small quantities. They have vitamins and minerals, and our good health requires them in milligram and macrogram amounts. Recall that fats, carbohydrates, and proteins are macronutrients, meaning that we require them in relatively large quantities. It is essential that we eat a variety of lean proteins, good quality carbohydrates, healthy fats, and lots of fresh fruits and vegetables in order to ensure we are achieving all of our micronutrient requirements. Your body needs 100 grams of non-fibrous carbohydrate a day to function, which is the equivalent of 20 teaspoons of sugar a day. To work out your daily recommended protein intake, use this sum: 0.36 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Ideally, 30% of your total calories should come from fat. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or ask a question within the private Facebook group.